Good morning, everyone. My name is Caren Toboro, a second-year Bachelor of Science in Agriculture student majoring in Agricultural Economics. I am your reporter for today in behalf of Group 5. So our topic for today is Topic 1, which is the components of water management in agriculture. So let us begin. So what is agricultural water management? Or what exactly is agricultural water management? So, according to the Science Direct, agricultural water management refers to the administration of water resources for agricultural production, but it is more than just supplying water to farms. It aims enhance productivity while balancing environmental and societal needs. Think of it as a system, one that brings together rural development, agriculture, water supply, and environmental management. These elements work hand in hand, address two major concerns. The first is the resource allocation, and the second one is the ecosystem services. So, resource allocation asks, how do we distribute limited water fairly among farm communities and the environment? So, ecosystem services reminds us that healthy water systems provide benefits beyond farming. They sustain biodiversity, regulate climate, and support clean water for communities downstream. So, in the Philippine context, this is the especially relevant. Many farming communities in areas like ours here in North Cotabato depend heavily on well-managed water systems for their or our livelihood. So there are three types of resources in agriculture. So now that we know what agricultural water management is, let us look at where the water actually comes from. There are or three major types of water resources that is being used in agriculture. First is the surface water, the second is the groundwater, and the third is rainwater harvesting or RWH. So let us begin with the first, which is the first type of water resources in agriculture, which is the surface water. Surface water refers to the water that is found on the surface of the land. The best example for this is the rivers, the lakes, the reservoir, and streams that is shown in the picture of on our PowerPoint. So these sources provide approximately 45% of irrigation water for global agriculture, making them the primary source of crop production and livestock. So, however, surface water is not without challenges. It is highly susceptible to, to seasonal variations. So during the dry season, rivers can run low, dry up entirely. So it is also vulnerable to droughts and pollution. So both of which are growing concerns in many parts of the Philippines today. So in an irrigated rice farming, so which is common here in the region 12, surface water from rivers and irrigation canals is a lifeline for production. So the second type is the groundwater. So groundwater is found beneath under the earth's surface. It is stored in aquifers. So it supplies nearly 43% of total consumptive irrigation water globally. So despite of being invisible, it is one of the agriculture's most vital resources. So, groundwater is especially crucial for food security and arid regions where rainfall is limited and the surface water is scarce. So, examples include the pump wells and natural springs. So, but here is the concern. The groundwater is being threatened by overexploitation, pollution, and climate change. Farmers who overpump wells risk depleting an aquifer that took thousands of years to fill. So once it's gone, it is extremely difficult to recover. So this is why Sustainable management of groundwater is one of the most pressing issues in agricultural water policy today. Next, we have the third type, which is the rainwater harvesting, or also known as RWH. So this involves the correct collecting, storing, and using surface runoff rainfall. Surface runoff or rainfall. It is particularly practiced in arid and semi-arid regions as a supplementary source of irrigation. So, rainwater harvesting offers several key benefits. So, it increased moisture, improves crop yields, boosts water security, reduces over-reliance on groundwater, and it helps prevent the soil erosion. It is considered a sustainable solution for food production because it works with nature rather than against it. So farmers collect rain when it is abundant and store it for the times of scarcity. So in upland farming areas in the Philippines, especially in the Visayas and Mindanao, rainwater harvesting systems like rooftop collection tanks and earthen catchment ponds are already being used. So water storage infrastructure. Now that we know where the water comes from, we need to talk about how it is stored. Water storage infrastructure plays a critical role in agricultural water management because it ensures that water is available even when rainfall is irregular. So there are four major types of water storage structures used in agriculture. So we have the tanks and reservoir. So first is tanks. Tanks are critical infrastructure components that is designed to store potable water, rainwater, or water for fire protection. They can be above ground or below ground and are commonly found in both household and farm settings. So the second is the reservoir. Reservoir are engineered artificial lakes, or in short, it is not natural. Um, so it is the artificial lakes designed to manage water availability. So they collect excess water during high flow or rainy seasons and store it for the use during droughts. So in the Philippines, large reservoir like Angat Dam in Bulacan and the Pantabangan Dam in Nueva Ecija are key to irrigating vast agricultural areas. So the principle here is simple. So store when there is plenty and use it when there is a little. Next, we have the ponds and the cisterns. So the ponds, it is served as a critical, decentralized, and nature-based solution for water management. They support agricultural irrigation and help with the flood mitigation. So unlike the reservoir, which are large and engineered, ponds are smaller and more naturally integrated into the landscape. So farm ponds are especially valuable for smallholder farmers. It is a well-constructed farm pond that can collect runoff during the rainy season and provide the reliable water source for the dry season irrigation. Next is the cisterns. So cisterns are watertight water storage structures designed to collect and store rainwater runoff for water from the other sources. They serve as domestic use, irrigation, and emergency water needs. So cisterns are especially valuable in remote farming communities that do not have any access to piped water systems. So they are not just affordable but also low in maintenance and effective. Next, we have the soil-water relationships. So what is the relationship between the soil and the water? So let us now go deeper. So we will talk about what happens to water once it reaches the soil. Understanding soil-water relationships is fundamental to efficient irrigation and crop management. So there are three concepts here. The first is the moisture retention. So moisture retention is the ability of soil to hold water against the pull of gravity. The pull of gravity. So think of it as the soil acting like a sponge. So it holds the water that plant roots can access it over time. Can access it over time. So different soil types retain moisture differently. So the clay soil holds more water but become waterlogged. So the best example for this is in the lowland rice field, or locally known to us as Basakan or Humayan. So sandy soils drain quickly but may not retain enough water for the crops. So the second concept is infiltration. So infiltration, it is the downward entry of water from the surface into the soil profile. So when the rain falls or irrigation is applied, not all of it stays on the surface. So some of it seeps into the ground, and that is called infiltration. Good infiltration means the water reaches the root zone where crops need it most. So the poor infiltration leads to runoff and erosion, which wastes the water and degrades the land. So the third is the water holding capacity, or the WHC. So water holding capacity, or WHC, represents the total moisture where a soil can store for plant use. A high WHC means the soil can hold more water, reducing the need for frequent irrigation. So, high water holding capacity can also prevent nutrients leaching, where the important minerals are washed away by excessive water, and supports plant growth during the dry periods. So this is particularly important in tropical agriculture, where dry spells can be sudden and severe. So understanding these three concepts helps the farmers to make smarter decisions um, when to irrigate, how much water to apply, and what crops are best suited to their soil type. So, what is the water quality considerations? So, having enough water is important, but having clean water is just critical. This brings us to water quality considerations. So, there are two central concerns when it comes to water quality in agriculture, which is the human health and the sustainable agriculture. So, we go to the human health. So, clean water used for irrigation must be free from harmful contaminants such as heavy metals, pesticides, and pathogens. So, when contaminated, water is used to irrigate vegetable or rice. Those contaminants can end up to the food we eat every day. So, this is not just a farming issue. So, it is also a public health issue. Communities that depend on irrigated crops for food security are directly affected by the quality of irrigation water. Next, we have the sustainable agriculture. So, for the sustainable agriculture, no, monitoring water quality means the regularly checking the pH levels, the salinity, and the nutrient content. So, pH level affect how well plants absorb the nutrients. So, the salinity, it is the concentration of salts in the water that can damage the soil structure and reduce the crop yields. So, nutrient content in water such as nitrogen can be beneficial in small amounts but harmful in excess. So, regular water quality monitoring helps maintain the soil fertility and ensures that crops continue to be productive season after the season. Next is the watershed management principles. So, we are now on our final content section, which is the water management principles. So, a watershed, also called a catchment area, catchment area. So what is the catchment area? So it is the land area that drains all precipitation and runoff into the common outlets such as the river, lake, the sea. Watershed management, it is about managing the entire land water system holistically. So there are three core principles of watershed management that is relevant to agriculture. So the first is catchment management. So catchment management involves holistic planning and aimed at three goals. So first is enhancing water quality. The second is boosting agricultural productivity. And last but not the least, the third is protecting ecosystems. So, but it is not just about environmental or it is not just about the environment. Good catchment management also fosters stakeholders participation and provides socio-economic benefits, meaning the farmers, the communities, and the government agencies and other stakeholders work together to manage the watershed for the benefit of everyone. The second is the runoff control. So runoff control, it is about the treating the land accordingly to its capability and managing water from the ridge to the valley. So this means that management must consider the entire landscape, meaning it is from the highest point of the catchment to its lowest. So effective runoff control uses participatory and holistic approaches. When farmers and communities are involved in planning and implementation, outcomes are more sustainable and locally adapted. So examples of runoff control practices include the contour farming, the grassed waterways, and of course, check dams. So why? So it is because all of which slow down water movement, increases the infiltration, and reduces the soil loss. So the third one is erosion prevention. So erosion prevention focuses on maintaining vegetative cover, reducing water velocity, and stabilizing soil to keep erosion within tolerable limits. So soil erosion is one of the biggest threats to long-term agricultural productivity. So when the topsoil is lost, the fertility will drops and water retention decreases, and also the crop yields decline. So preventing erosion is therefore directly tied to the food security. So vegetative cover such as grasses, shrubs, and trees along the waterways act as the natural buffer, slowing runoff and keeping soil in place. So in sloped or slopy areas common in Mindanao, erosion prevention is especially urgent. So to wrap up, let us do a quickly summary of everything we have covered today. So, agricultural water management is the administration of water resources for agricultural production, balancing the productivity and environment and society. Next, there are three main water resources in agriculture. You have the surface water, groundwater, and rainfall harvesting, each with unique advantages and risks. Next, we have the shortage infrastructure. So each with the unique advantages and risk also, um, including the tanks, reservoirs, the ponds, and cisterns. It is ensured that availability beyond the rainy season. Next is the soil-water relationships. So it involves the moisture retention and filtration and water holding capacity, which are essential for efficient irrigation and decisions. And then water quality must be monitored for contaminations, pH, desalinity, and nutrients to protect both human health and agricultural productivity. Last but not the least, the watershed management principles. So it is the catchment management or runoff control and erosion prevention to guide the sustainable use of land and water across the entire landscapes. So in conclusion, water is not just a farming input, but it is also a shared resources that connects communities, ecosystems, and generations. How we manage it today will determine the food security of tomorrow. So I hope this report was given you a clearer picture of the components and principles behind the agricultural water management. If you have any questions or clarifications about the topics I covered, I am happy to address them. Thank you so much for listening.